Welcome. It's that time again. It's time for another artist masterclass at MYT. Well, the second attempt at one, because we had some technical issues last week and it wasn't exactly what you would call a smooth transition for a company called Make Your Transition, unfortunately. But we got there in the end and everything's working correctly. And we're doing this when clearly we were meant to do it. So all good in the hood. So if you're joining us and it's your first time, because we are streaming this publicly on our MYT YouTube channel, thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm going to do that YouTube-y thing, so bear with me for a second. You know, smash that like button, subscribe for more content, you know, that kind of thing. It's what the kids do. You know, do it because you're down with the kids. Do it because you want to make better dance music, and do it because otherwise I'm going to come around your house and smash it at them. Anyway, on that passive-aggressive note, we shall move into things. So, again, if you're watching for the first time, hello. It's Paul Nolan. I'm the owner and the founder of MYT, and we are the artist development platform that is here to help you become the best artist you can be by becoming the best version of yourself. And frankly, who doesn't need that in their lives? You know, good case in point here, Dennis Vedas, one of our members, joining us this evening, who is smashing it at the moment and doing very, very well. Yeah, you see, Dennis hit that like button. He smashed subscribe. Do you know what I mean? If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for the rest of you. Anyway, so that being said, as I say, MYT's here to help you, and we're helping a lot of people. And we're going to speak to an artist in the moment that actually has benefited from what we've had to say to him and how we've helped him along the way towards being signed to an incredible label. And we've got many, many examples of this. Again, our previous artist masterclass was with one of our members called Chris Brown, aka Four Candles, and we took a deep dive into Devious, which was his release on Bedrock, which again first came to life in one of our track feedback sessions, because we do these regular group track feedback sessions where we all help each other to the next level with absolutely high level technical, creative, branding, marketing advice. So it's the 360 of everything that you need to be an artist in this day and age. And now things are back open again, and obviously we're in this kind of pretty much almost like a post-pandemic era. Obviously we've got a lot more opportunity. And again, one of these opportunities that we have is to speak to an up-and-coming artist who is doing amazing things and has massively impressed us with his work up to now, and so it has proven, because he's starting to get signed to incredible record labels. So we thought we'd invite him on as an excellent example of, you know, pretty much how we help an artist, but also how an artist can help themselves, because he's done incredible work and it's starting to show, and there's a really exciting future ahead of him. So without much further ado, I am just going to move over and speak to Mr. Gareth Cole. How are you, dude?
Hey, Paul. Yeah, very good. Thanks, buddy. You can blame me for our little incident last week where we couldn't get
oh, but of course, mate.
Zoom to work. My skills on Zoom are completely hopeless.
Well, hopefully your skills on Ableton are a bit better than, you know.
Just slightly, I think. But yeah. But
exactly.
yeah, I'm doing well, mate. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and
mate,
yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Looking forward.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. It's an absolute pleasure, because you know you've done so well, and you've really hit your mark in a really, really interesting way, and you've done it your own way as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into breaking the track down a little bit later on. So obviously, you know, if you want to give a little bit of a background into, you know, where you come from, what your history is a little bit, and sort of how you found yourself at our door, that would be absolutely fantastic. So please give us that intro.
Yeah, sure. Well, quite a lot to tell, really. So I go under the name Gareth Cole, which is just my name for the artist name. I couldn't think of anything cool, so I just thought I'd go for that. It seems to be working. But yeah, so I'm house and kind of techno DJ producer based in just north of Manchester in Bolton. I've been kind of DJing longer than I have been producing. I was kind of a raver first. I think my brother came home from Creamfields once, and about 4 o'clock in the morning blasting some Global Underground CD. So I got the bug at 4 o'clock in the morning, and was kind of a dance music addict ever since, really. But I've worked in the corporate world. I've worked in banking in my early 20s and later 20s as well. But I've always been obviously into dance music, and I've been clubbing, and then I think it was about 25. I went to Australia, did a bit of traveling there for a year, and then I kind of decided when I came back I wanted to, pursue that passion for being a full-time artist, a DJ producer. So yeah, I got into DJing properly then. Worked for an agency. So yeah, I've been kind of DJing for about over 10 years, and I've been producing for probably about 5 or 6 years. I'd say, like, the production wise, I've only properly got into it the last 2 or 3 years have been more productive. I think the first couple of years it was just kind of messing around, and I hadn't a clue what I was doing, to be honest. So so the last couple of years have definitely kind of come together well. I think just before MYT, was it about 18 months ago I joined, or maybe a bit longer. I was an all right producer. I was making probably music that might be release level, but it wasn't. There was a lot of things that I needed to work on, on workflow and technical skills and things. So a couple of my mates joined MYT, and obviously they told me all about it, and I was kind of part of their little circle. So I joined as well, and yeah, kind of the last.
Oh, he's frozen a little bit.
18 months, really kind of taken off. So yeah, really, it's been a very, very good 18 months. So yeah, and now I'm here, releasing on some pretty good labels, and yeah, and moving forwards.
Well, that's it. So
I hope that answers your question.
Very thoroughly, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, it's great to actually sort of speak to you about this, because obviously you've got a release that's out now on one of Steve Bugg's labels, it's the sub-label from PokerFlat, right?
Correct. Yeah. So Steve actually did a podcast on a group I was a part of a couple of years ago. It might have been a couple of years. Like just talking about his kind of creative process and all that, and my music was kind of in that kind of ballpark anyway. I was a big fan of Steve's, and I've been to see he's been played out in Manchester quite a few times, and I've seen him play. I've always liked that kind of deep, minimal, techie kind of sound. So I sent some music to him after that podcast, and then later, I think a few weeks after that, he emailed me back to say, well, really liked the tunes and he wanted to sign them. So absolutely delighted really to get on such an amazing label. Really, there's some quality artists on there, so it's it's definitely an honor. I'm really
definitely,
happy with that.
Definitely, yeah. And PokerFlat's been a label I've been a massive fan of, north of probably say 15 years. So to have that kind of association is absolutely phenomenal. Whatever part of like the PokerFlat family it is, to get the nod from somebody like Steve Bugg is incredibly impressive. But it's not the only nod you've had so far this year, is it? Because you've actually got a Beatport #1 as well.
I have, yes. So that was the debut release on Supermatic. So and all those tracks I put on the MYT feedback kind of sessions as well, which we'll probably talk about a bit later, how that's impacting my music. And I got that was my first release on Supermatic, three tracks, kind of deep house, techie, which is my kind of sound. And it got to #1 on Beatport Deep House releases. So I'm hopeful. But I was absolutely shocked, blown away by that. So that was a good start. But I feel like when I've got a release now, it's like, oh shit, it's like I'm I've got a number one. What am I going to do now? How can I get better than that?
Yeah, so, the only way's down from here. Like,
yeah, I'm screwed. Yeah.
No, exactly, mate. No, and we were thrilled for you. Do you know what I mean? Because like, you know, that's obviously like that was the first Beatport number one of our artists got this year, and then Chris Four Candles obviously followed it.
Smashing it, yeah.
Oh, mate, I mean, he's absolutely just knocking it out the park. Like, what a dude. And, you know, just for that, like, you know, there's this whole crew coming through. Like, you know, there's Cassine, who's getting incredible Radio 1 play from the likes of Jaguar and Sarah Story, and, you know, there's too many people. There's too many people to name check. Like Clyde Rouge, who's, you know, doing incredible things, releasing on Circus recordings, amongst any other things. And the scary thing is we've got about another 5 or 6, and we're getting up to that point now of like, right, you guys are ready. Let's get these things, you know, let's get these off to labels and stuff like that, which, you know, obviously is kind of something that we do as well. So, you know, it's a really, really crazy year of success for MYT members so far, mate. And you're at the forefront of that, mate. So super, super proud of you. So, you know, in terms of like, I mean, you know, trust me, this is not going to turn into a full-on commercial for MYT. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not that kind of thing at all. It's more to do with like how you feel like your workflow has evolved, that has meant that you've got to this place. Do you know what I mean? Like, because obviously I know we've had a long conversation about like, you know, habits and how you've kind of like almost like built your life around these goals, which is like seriously impressive, because I know you've got a bit of a sports background as well, haven't you? And that's probably been quite helpful in that as well, right?
Yeah, habits. I'll start with that first. That's one of the biggies for me, really. So I read a lot of books, so you know, like Atomic Habits and all these other kind of good books that you can read about mindset and bettering yourself. And yeah, I really put a lot of emphasis on all these kind of habits. You know, each day what I do, you know, I get up early. You know, I do lots of mindfulness stuff, you know, to get my head in a good shape for when I get in the studio. I get out first thing in the morning as well, get some sunlight. I go to the gym. You know, that I eat well. I try, you know, go to bed early. You know, so I've got quite a regimented kind of
the typical DJ lifestyle, right?
Well, that's Monday to Thursday, so it kind of goes. It goes a bit peak tongue after that, but you know, like kind of Friday, Saturdays. I've got residencies in Manchester. The Ivy and another place called Tattoo, so I play there Friday and Saturdays. So my kind of body clock goes off the radar on Sunday, and then I kind of get back to normality again on Monday. But yeah, it's just all these little habits that I do now that are they're all kind of, they're not obvious, but they're kind of working in the background, I feel. And you know, the results are now kind of coming together. You know, like sometimes when you start these things, you think, oh, nothing's happening here, but after a while it all adds up, and then the results and all the success and things, they just come as a, like people say, as a byproduct or whatever. But it does, you know, it's definitely happened for me anyway. And you know, I'm a lot happier person for it as well, so a lot more at peace than I used to be and stuff. And yeah, and I don't go out as much now and get on it and all that kind of stuff. I still, you know, like a night out occasionally, but it's, you know, it's just all kind of you know, in it, you know, it's all looked after, and you know, I'm following good habits. So yeah.
We won't mention the few weekends you've just had in Ibiza and all that, or the wedding you've got coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know,
but hey, I needed it. I've not been out for a year,
mate. Sometimes, mate, you've got to pull the ripcord, mate. I mean, I was in exactly the same position in Ibiza in April when I went to IMS, and it's like I went to see Sasha at this incredible new club called Akasha up in Las Dalias, and I said to Dan Fisher, who works with me on MYT, I was like, ripcord's getting pulled tonight, mate. Strap yourself in. And it was fully pulled, and I'll tell you something, it was much needed, mate. It was really much needed indeed. So everything in moderation. You need a
blowout occasionally. Yeah, absolutely. I know, and I felt great for it as well. I think what you were saying before also, I play a lot of sports, and that's kind of, helped, because you need that kind of separation, I feel, because I do music full time now with my DJ and producing Monday to Thursday, and it can get quite overwhelming if you're just constantly doing music all the time. You need to get away from it, and for me, playing sports, I'm quite a good tennis player. I've played for, since I was like 10. So, I play that a couple of times a week, and I've been able to now, I'm kind of getting better at tennis again. I've always been a good player, so I've always thought, I don't need to improve. But I'm actually now applying some of the things I've learned through as a producer, like the growth mindset, and I'm putting it into my tennis game now. So it's funny how you can apply, things that you learn, and you can put it into other things, which obviously then it makes your life a lot more, fulfilling and stuff. So
no, absolutely, yeah. And it's at the
so
centre of what we teach at MYT as well, which is our sort of like, core program is called the flow system, and it's all about, creating a creative flow state. And the ironic thing about that is it's applicable in the studio, but it's also applicable in the rest of your life as well.
Yeah, it so is. So no, it's just getting that separation really, and playing tennis, and I'm into like football and cricket as well. So I go and watch plenty of that. So
So you're not a masochist like me that has to go and like, sort of roll around on a mat with other men and get strangled to get his urges met, basically. Like,
what's that, wrestling?
Yeah, no, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
WWE.
Yeah. Oh, I wish, mate. I wish I wouldn't be on this live stream, mate. I'd be a millionaire. I'd be a millionaire professional wrestler.
You can go and wrestle with Stone Cold or something, or The Rock. Yeah,
mate, don't start
that
me,
might
mate.
sort you out.
Don't start me, because I'm a mark for that
yeah.
stuff, honestly. Like, and this will turn into a fucking wrestling podcast if you let me. Honestly, like, that's kind of like one of my guilty pleasures, is that I'm a total mark for all that stuff. Like,
yeah.
I
could go all day on wrestling with you, trust me.
Yeah, exactly. It's always really funny, when you unveil somebody else who's in the secret cult of professional wrestling.
Oh, I'm not ashamed of it.
Mate, neither am I. Not anymore. Used to be for a while.
It's crap now, but yeah.
Oh, well.
Used to be.
Well. We'll have an offline conversation about that. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So.
Oh wow, yeah.
So like it's very, very good for, flow. It's very good for getting your mind off things, because let's face it, if you've got anything else on your mind other than the person who's on top of you trying to strangle you, it's not going to go well for you. So it's one of those things that's kind of like my escape, as well as like skiing. And I actually quite like, one of the weirdest things I'm into is clay pigeon shooting. Like, I absolutely love clay pigeon shooting, because it's that flow of like, the only thing that occurs to you when you're doing it is shooting that thing out the sky. And I think there's something similar going on with like me and Dan Fisher, because Dan Fisher's like an amazing archer. Like, he's really banged into his archery as well, and that's a flow-based exercise as well. So there's just that, there's something there, when you think about like, artists who were great at sport, like Dixon, for example, was like amazing at football and was on the books at Bayern Munich, and Guy Gerber apparently played for like, under 18s for Israel or something like that. And, I know one of the lads from Army, I think, is it Frank? No, Christian from Army had a trial with Bayern Munich as well. So there's this thing of like, another friend of mine, Brendan Futurebound, was an incredible footballer as well, and like had trials for like Liverpool and Tranmere Rovers and stuff like that. So there's that thing of like a crossover of like elite performance across different fields, and it's like the makeup of it is almost the same thing, isn't it? Really.
They're like those annoying people that are good at everything, aren't they?
Fucking hate them, don't you?
Get rid of them.
Yeah. They're all people who I know, and I fucking hate all of them. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Not at all, mate. Not at all. So as we were saying, the great thing about that is that it's converted into success for you in the studio. And you've kind of like built this kind of momentum up. And, we saw it on the regular track feedback sessions that we do, which obviously are live sessions. We do them on Zoom. We obviously, have it going through on our Discord as well. And, we really get together as a community, and it's really good fun. So ultimately, we get to give each other incredible feedback. And you've definitely like had a lot of music come through there, and like what I noticed over the last sort of year in particular was that the quality just started to really escalate. But not only the quality, but the consistency, because there was stuff going in almost on like a monthly or like a bi-weekly basis, and it was really, really impressive.
Yeah,
So
there's two things with that. I think one is obviously the feedback sessions. As a producer, if you're not sending your music out to people, you're not getting that confidence that your music is good, and if you're just kind of keeping it to yourself, you're just going to keep worrying about it or going paranoid, or getting actual expert feedback from yourself and from the other guys as well. I've had some great advice from the guys on the group as well that, I've absolutely nailed it. And then I've put that feedback into practice, and I thought, shit, this track sounds so much better now, so it's so crucial to get feedback. The second thing is the backing that up with, because there's always like technical stuff that, especially when I first joined MYT, I was kind of lacking in mix down skills and sound design. So I kind of did a lot of the technical content which you put on MYT, to kind of beef up those areas. And then I was then finishing the tracks and then getting them onto the feedback system. So it was like a little system I had in place.
A feedback loop.
Feedback, really, yeah.
See what I did?
Yeah. So so those kind of things have all combined really to to take my music up to about a next level really. So
no, absolutely. No, absolutely. It's been great because, again, like the regular track feedback sessions that we do, like it's almost like it's become like a deadline for everyone, where it's like, right, I've got to get something ready for the end of the month. So it kind of keeps people sharp, keeps people focused, and it's just a great way for the community to get together. And what's come out of that is incredible music. I mean, we just did our 3 track feedback sessions for the month, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And this morning was the final one, and literally every single track this week was just absolute, just scorched earth bangers. It was just like the highest standard that I think I may have ever heard on track feedback sessions. And the scary thing is that the next month will come round and it'll get better again. And it's just like everyone's just in this real mutual churn of like helping each other to the next level. So it's like it's a really, really beautiful community, mate. It really is. And we're all massively proud of you, mate, Yeah,
it sounds like I need to up my game really now by the judge of that.
just saying. Got
some improvement to do now.
No, exactly, mate. Exactly. That's the great thing about it, mate. And it's not like, what's really beautiful about it is that it's not competitive either. It's all just about helping each other up.
It is,
and actually, like, just like creating a bit of a culture, which is what we've done at MYT. And it's like, we're trying to like approach the industry in a slightly different way, whether it's like, people being their authentic selves, artistically, musically, branding wise, helping them to understand that there's only one vacancy for you in this industry, and that's for you, because everything else is taken. Like, everybody else who's out there trying to be, the next Deadmau5 or, the next Tale of Us. Well, I've got news for you guys. Like, those vacancies are taken. And as somebody, said to me yesterday, the landscape is very different now because we've got a lot more, diversity, which is an amazing thing, which is like, back in the day, it used to be a bit of an old boys network, and now it's no longer the case. And we've got incredible women coming through. So it's like, well, what have you got to do to stand out these days? Because there's so much more competition, like, out there in the industry. So the only way that you can stand out is actually, ironically, by trying not to stand out and just being yourself.
Yeah. That's you make such a good point, because obviously the scene in Manchester, there's so many people making the same music, not an MYT. It's amazing, but when you look at a lot of the stuff that's released and a lot of young producers, it's so very samey, kind of that tech house scene that everyone is mad about, especially in Manchester and stuff. And it's not my kind of thing, but I've always never, I never let that influence me, kind of make what I feel is true to myself. because when I have tried to make stuff, like, you know, when you've tried to think, oh, I quite like that tune, and then you try and dissect it, you just end up overwhelmed, or, you know, or you're not actually, you know, being genuine and authentic about it, and I just get fed up. So yeah, I always try and go with what feels right to me. You know, I get influence off a lot of artists that I like, and you know, and I listen to music, but I try and, you know, I go with a flow really, and I just, you know, when I'm creating ideas, I try and just make what I want to, because at the end of the day, my ultimate goal is to be that artist where people come to see me, you know, my sound, and obviously I'll play other people's music as well, but it's got that vibe and that sound that I want to create in my DJ sets. So I'm quite laser focused in that, you know, I've got a sound and there's characteristics that I like with my music, and then I stick to those and I get good at those, rather than kind of getting drawn away trying to make some stuff that's just not for me.
Yeah.
So
whether spread yourself too thin, right?
What's that? Sorry.
So you're just trying to spread yourself too thin otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is with producing, if you're trying to do too much, or trying to like make you, sometimes if you stick to one thing, you know, and what you really like, and you just keep finishing tracks like that, you get better quicker. I've found, because I used to dabble a lot. I'd make like a house track, and then I'd make a banging techno tune, like a 130 plus or something, and then I'd do the same and repeat. And then after 3 months, when I got back to my house tunes, I'd be like, what if I actually, you know, I didn't feel like I've got any momentum of finishing a lot of tracks of the same kind of, you know, style or vibe or whatever. So I've tried to really hone in on it, especially the last 12 months. And I kind of made that decision to, you know, to stick to the more deep techie houseier vibes, rather than, because I'm kind of a techno guy at heart, really. If I go clubbing, techno's my music, really. But I feel like as an artist, I'm more drawn to, you know, like it's still techno-y, but it's got more of a, like a slightly houseier, deep houseier vibe to it as well, dubbier stuff. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned before about like you're working on the more sort of technical side of things, where the other courses on MYT, as well as the community aspect, really helped you with, you know, that combination of like being able to kind of go through a course like our Mixdown Mastery course, and then be able as a AAA member to be able to go and get feedback on your mixdowns after you've learned everything on the course is also something of quite a potent combination, right?
It is, yeah, because there's always, with being a producer, there's so much to learn, you know, like, and there's always something new to learn, you know, like every week and stuff. So, you know, being able to go through that, obviously, like the mixdown course that you've done, and the sound design course, there's a lot of gaps that in the last 18 months I've been able to kind of, you know, really close in on, and yeah, it's like a jigsaw puzzle sometimes. There's something that needs, you know, something's not quite right there. And yeah, I've just been able to kind of gradually get more upskilled on, like, I've done a lot of your kind of sound design courses on synths, you know, like Arturia, like the V, is it V3?
Yeah, the Mini V, yeah. The
Mini V, the Moog. And I've done, obviously, the Silent course, which is my go-to synth. And I think is the main stab lead for the track we'll be going through later on. So
amazing.
So yeah, I was able to you doing that course, the Silent course. Obviously, it made it a lot easier then to have more control over the sounds that I was creating, and then putting that into practice and making the track. So yeah, it's definitely worked for me, because you need a combination really of, you know, finishing music, getting feedback, but you also need to identify which areas you're missing, you know, where you're lacking in, and obviously a lot of the content that you provided has bridged that gap. So
yeah.
So it's been all good.
I'm glad that bridged that gap where I nearly absolutely bloody killed myself making that content over the last 2 years.
Oh, right.
It was just like, I mean, I was setting
Oh
such
well,
a
no pain, no
hellacious.
gain. Come
Well,
on.
yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, I was setting such a hellacious pace. I remember people last year like emailing me going, "Paul, it's amazing what you're doing, but can you just like slow the fuck down?"
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
too much. Yeah,
can it be
yeah.
literally
You're
like this?
spoiled for choice
This
here.
this time last year, I think about there's about 10 members who were DMing me going, "Paul, go on holiday, please, for our
Yeah.
sake as well as your own."
Yeah, you're an absolute animal, weren't you, at one point? You're
Oh,
just
mate. I mean,
churning out those
do you
courses.
mean at
Yeah.
one point still am in
Oh
my
yeah,
own
you
way.
still are. You still are, right? Yeah.
No, and it's great because like we keep adding to the courses as well over time, and we've just done that on the Mixdown Mastery because we're actually it's worth mentioning like because we're on a public thing. It's like we've just expanded Mixdown Mastery into the realm of spatial audio as well. So we've just started teaching Dolby Atmos in Logic Pro, which has been fantastic. Like we did a live mix down last week, which was great, and we did a whole thing on like how to work with it and how to use the various plugins and how to render everything. And it's been great because like again, another part of like what I do is that I work in like immersive and spatial audio for D&B Audio Technic, and it's been great to kind of bring that in because in the next sort of 5 years or so, like that's where this is where everything's gonna go. So it's good to be ahead of the curve as well as do everything else that we did on that course, like teaching about EQ and compression and panning and stereo width and everything else. And obviously we've got a mastering course ongoing at the moment as well, which we're going into like a hell of a lot of detail about mastering compression and clipping and all that stuff as well. So we definitely put a lot of effort into covering off the technical aspects as well as everything else that you need, because obviously in the track feedbacks and what we call office hours as well, which is more just like the get-togethers and regular chats, we go over stuff like how do I get signed to a label, what's the best way to approach things, all of that stuff. So it's great. So one thing I wanted to ask before we get into it is how did the PokerFlat, how did actually how did you get the music over to Steve, and how did it come to a point where it was signed?
This is one, and I talked to this with all my very good producer buddies, that this is one of the hardest things you can do. It's not easy. Obviously making the tunes and getting them high quality is a tough ask, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of commitment. But the other part is obviously getting your music into the right hands, and it's tough. It's a mental battle because you get a lot of doubts. There's a lot of uncertainty.
It's actually harder than making the bloody music in the first place.
It is. It probably is, to be honest. But you've got to find a way. If you really want it, you've got to do it. And there's so many people who they'll submit something and then they'll just give up. But you've got to be persistent, and you've got to find a way, and you've got to obviously it's hard, obviously due to the pandemic, because you can't actually last year and the year before you couldn't really go out and meet that DJ or that producer because obviously there weren't any events. But obviously now things are opening up, and for me, a lot of the artists I like aren't based in the UK. That a lot of them are based in Germany and stuff, and South America or whatever. So it's a lot kind of harder for to get out there and maybe meet them. But for me, what I do is I build up a relationship on social media, because in the end of the day, these artists are people I love, and I love the music. So I always post stuff if I like the music, and it's all kind of positive stuff, and and that kind of stuff. And by doing that, then they get to know you and that, and you share the music, and it's good. You're all like that little community at the end of it. So I've done that, and then after a while, once I kind of built that little bit of rapport with whoever, I've messaged some of them on Instagram, because that is what a lot of the artists go on these days, to be fair. So yeah, I've just sent a nice message, like really fan of the music, and I've got some music of my own that that I'd like to kind of share with you. I'm not saying that I'm submitting it or anything. I'm just saying that I've got some music, and it'd be cool if it might be all right for your DJ sets and stuff. And yeah, and usually more often than not, I've had replies back to say, we'll check it out, no problem. So so I've kind of done it through that way, through Instagram, and so by obviously posting and then sending messages. Another artist I met in Manchester a couple of years ago who was DJing at, I think it was Stage and Radio, and after his set I went over and had a chat with him. But I kind of find a way, like sometimes if I can't get through to one person in the label, I'll find out who else is part of it, and I'll work my way in through that. So I'm one kind of strength of me is I'm persistent. I just don't quit. So if someone if I've got to do something, I'll just. It's like with my tennis, if I've got to play it, I've got to get really good at it. So I'm just very persistent at things that I do. So, and I think with this, you just not got to quit. You just got to keep going, keep being persistent, and being obviously respectful to the artists as well, because obviously they're very busy. But obviously it's important to have a profile as well on social media, and if you're posting kind of good content about your music and all that, that helps, and then you start to build your fan base as well. So it's a combination of me now building up my social media and then networking with these labels and these artists that I'm a big fan of. So yeah,
that's amazing stuff, and you kind of echoing a lot of the sentiments that we talk about in MYT, which is to actually start, like, a lot of people say, well, what label I should send that to, and it's like, start with DJs. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that a lot of DJs also have labels, but the best way to do it is to actually identify the DJs that you would like to have play your music, and then lead with that, and then get DJ support for an unsigned record. And then more often than not, if you do start getting to have some DJ support, then that will be a major weapon in you actually approaching the label and saying, right, well, I've got Steve Bug playing this record, or I've got Christoph playing this record, or I've got John Digweed playing this record, that kind of thing. And again, a lot of those artists, like, the likes of Chris, and, even myself, found out with my own Bedrock release a while back, a few years back now, that, very quickly getting music to somebody like John through, friends like I did, or mutual contacts, that kind of thing, very quickly, from there, doesn't just lead to him playing the records, it actually leads to him signing them, because, a lot of these DJs, like Steve Bug, for example, end up having, like, really, really well-regarded labels, which put you in with a shot. So I love that entire approach, and the fact that, yeah, you do need to have a presence on social media these days. It's kind of hard to make inroads without it in this day and age, but you're doing it in a way where you're making it work for you, because I think there's a lot of problems with social media these days in terms of the message that artists get is that, like, that's what you've got to do more than anything else. And they oftentimes struggle because their music suffers, the creative output suffers, their authentic artistic voice suffers because they feel like they've got to be somebody else for the crowd. And, it's really important, like you mentioned before, like everything else in life. It's really important to keep these things in balance as well. So, like, massive props to you, mate, for making that work, and the persistence element, and, being persistently, assertively nice is always a good way forward. Like, I mean, if you can consistently not be a dickhead in life, most things will work out for you.
Yeah, true. Well, I like to think I'm not a dickhead, so I'm a nice guy. So I think.
Well, trust me, there's only one dickhead on this call, mate, and it's not you.
Oh, you're a good lad. You're a good lad, Paul.
Well, we try our best.
Sometimes.
Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks. You had to get that in there, didn't you? Shit.
I did, yeah. I can't be too nice to you.
Exactly. Yeah, of course you can't, mate, because you're from kind of basically Manchester. So, the Liverpool. It costed El Bolton. Exactly, mate. Yeah, exactly.
My dreams are made of.
Viva la Horwich.
Yeah. I'm not far from Horwich, actually. About 20 minutes away, 15 minutes.
Well, of course, there's not a very big place. So there you go.
No, it's not. No, it's...
Anyway, enough about the Northwest of England rivalry. Shall we have a look
Yeah.
at the track and have a little playthrough, and then we can kind of, go through the main bits and see how it was made. So, fancy sharing your
Yeah,
screen?
of course.
And we'll have a little
Yeah,
look,
of course,
because
yeah.
we're all set up for that.
Ooh, right, okay.
Give the people what they want. This is what they came here for. Hey, there you go.
Are we on?
We are on.
Is that playing?
That
Yeah.
is playing absolutely wonderful. Thank you very
Right.
much. So do you want to do a little bit of a playthrough,
Oh.
and then
Yeah.
we won't play the whole thing obviously, but we'll play a good chunk of it, and then we'll talk about it later.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Right. absolutely fantastic.
Cheers, bud. Do you want me to stop it?
Yeah, go on, mate. Yeah. Don't want to give the whole thing away on YouTube. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's only the outro, so it's all right.
It's all good, mate, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
Nah, amazing, mate. Amazing.
So this one is my second track, the EP called Courage. Now, this one's a more kind of techie, slightly proggy side of the EP, I think. The other two are a bit more kind of on the deep house groovers, a bit more houseier side, but this one, yeah, a bit more peak time, a bit more techie. So this one's my favourite of the three. I think it's a bit more what I was going for. So
Amazing stuff. That's amazing.
Track.
And what's great about it is like just the momentum just keeps building and it keeps rolling and it keeps like it's almost like a kind of a snowball rolling downhill.
Like a chugger.
It just gathers more and more the more you do it. Like it's absolutely amazing. It really is.
Like one thing with my music is it's quite simple, really. It's very basic, minimal. I don't really add too much sounds I like to make the most of what I've got, because I feel like sometimes if it goes a bit too melodic-y or a bit too progressive-y, it can lose the kind of the groove and the vibe a bit, which I'm going for, because obviously techno is more my kind of bag. So I try and I try and make this music which is a bit slower, but in a kind of a techno context as well, or techno progressive context. So so it's all very simple, really. It's just basic, some elements that come in and some things that come out, and it all kind of builds onto like the main break down here, and then there's the drop, and then the sounds come back in again a bit later on. But yeah, it's all very minimalistic, but that's how I like my music.
No, absolutely, mate, and it's all the better for it, because the great thing is that the way that you've produced these tracks is that they're so warm and they're so inviting that you can't help but kind of like move to them, which is fantastic. So again, it's that thing of, I always talk about this a lot in like track feedback sessions and stuff, but it's like there's a softness to the transients, which means that, like, I mean, we've all heard records like this, either in like, there's nothing worse than like, turning up at an empty club, because you automatically feel like you're kind of under attack a little bit. Whereas, like, if you get the right amount of people in the room and you play the right kind of music and the transients aren't too, harsh or, too aggressive, you don't feel like you're under attack, and you can kind of get into it a little bit more, and you feel a bit more sort of welcome in front of the sound system a little bit. And that's something you've definitely done here, mate. You've really like left a lot of space, which actually is something that's quite it's quite a brave thing to do, because actually when you leave that kind of space, you're relying on the quality of the elements to do the heavy lifting for you. And as we've just heard, like, the quality of the elements is absolutely on point.
Yeah, cheers, bud. I think when they did the master, I think they warmed up quite. I've got the master here, but they warmed up the kind of the mids and the high mids a little bit, so it does put through a bit more. But still, it's a sim, exactly like you saying. It's quite. It's like a smooth kind of ride into it that just locks you in.
No, absolutely, man.
But the thing is, when you make this kind of music, it is difficult, because you've got to really get the sounds right. If they don't sound right, it's going to sound shit. And it's taken me years to kind of like realize that for my kind of music, less is more. But you've got to make sure that every element that you're putting in has a purpose, really. And because for me, I'm very much groove based as well. Like, it's all got to be groovy and it's got to lock you in. And whenever I add an element, I think to myself, right, how can I get that to talk to the other elements and things like that? So it's quite a tough genre to master, but because you've got to be really on point with what the sounds that you've got, and they've all got to kind of talk to each other. Because I found that if what I used to do was maybe about a year and a half ago, I used to have like a full 15 16 bar loop, and then when I had everything playing, it all sounded great. But then when you start muting some of the elements, you kind of realize that there's quite a lot of other elements that aren't working alongside other elements. So I think a tip from me, if you're making this kind of music, is make sure that everything talks to each other. So when you do mutes, like the pads, the strings, the lead elements, that all the other stuff is working alongside each other. Because if you do that, then the arrangements just flow. You know, you can easily get it from doing nothing to taking off. Whereas if not everything's kind of singing along the same groove, you're then trying to correct yourself afterwards. So and it takes ages and you get frustrated. So yeah, a big tip is make sure it all kind of sings with one another, and every element's got a space in the frequency spectrum, but also it's kind of talking with the other elements, because then if things are talking, you get more groove anyways as a result. So absolutely couldn't agree more, mate. You make so many good points there, and that call and response is so important. From, you know, even if it's just different percussion sounds, having them tuned correctly, having, like, you know, the toms be in the same key as the track, or have the kick tuned in the right way, and, you know, being able to kind of sequence them rhythmically, but also, you know, like melodically almost, to kind of have them talk and play off different elements, rest of the elements of the track. You know, having a bass stab talk to a tom kind of thing, having like a melodic pluck, you know, be in the same key as something else, you know, that kind of thing. That really is like it's a difficult thing to get right, but once you do get it right, it just opens up a whole new world of possibilities, and it just makes your tunes just go up like so quick. It's unbelievable. Like, it comes with time and finishing a lot of music, but eventually you start to get that kind of, it just comes naturally. You kind of know what to add, and then it's easier then to get elements to kind of bounce off each other, because you think like, oh, I've got a sound that's quite low, then let's play it off something that's a bit higher on in the spectrum, because they'll fit each other, you know, because you don't want to clog everything up in one band. You know, you want to kind of get something else to play off in another kind of octave band. So
absolutely,
but then it comes with finishing more tracks. What kind of sounds fit this kind of music? You know, so like for me, like for percussion, you know, I have a lot of congas and bongos and things to add a bit of groove to it, and a bit of tribalness as well. And so because I love kind of like the, you know, like Gorge and Nick Curley and Mia Popovicu's kind of sounds, and you know, they use quite a bit of percussion-y stuff that's, you know, especially Nick Curley, very tribal percussion-y, like congas and stuff. And so I kind of had that. That's maybe my slightly organic side, but then the rest is, you know, synths and whatever.
Amazing. And it's interesting because Alex Kellerman in the chat here has just said, speaking of music inspiration, I think you'd really like the Romanian minimal techno scene. I played your track Recovery in one of my sets and it flowed gorgeously. So Alex is actually from Romania. So there you go. A bit of
nice one.
High praise indeed. Yeah. And I love the fact that, you know, the Romanians have actually like, sort of took up that like real tech house kind of like mantle, if you will.
They have. I absolutely love that sound. Like, obviously Mia Popovicu's kind of, he's probably my favorite producer. He goes from, he can make like a minimal tune, but he can make a deep house tune, he can make a melodic techno tune, but it's still got his kind of sound. But then you, like you say, the other Romanians, like the is it Radu and all that and all that. They are absolutely Raresh. That is, to me, that is, that's probably what tech house, or the nearest thing to what tech house used to be for me. Because you know, it's all about the vibe and the groove, and there's none of that stuff that they play these days where it goes into a breakdown and it's all cheese and G house and stuff. And it's not my bag. So I absolutely love the Romanian stuff, and I think there's a few loops I've actually used in this that's from a Romanian sample pack actually. Mia Popovicu nonetheless.
Is right. Alex has just replied here in the chat saying Popovicu is a groove beast. And it's absolutely mental how good Romanians are at electronic music. I'd say that probably nowadays they're almost on a par with the Dutch. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, talk about like a country that is like punching way above its weight in terms of like, you know, electronic music talent. the ratio to like, you know, the size of the country or like the size of the, you know, size of the scene there. It's absolutely ludicrous. And, you know, as I sit here in what is now statistically and economically been proven the best city in England to live if you want to be musically successful, apart from London, it's Liverpool. So maybe the next thing you need to do, mate, is move to Liverpool. Maybe that's what you need to do.
You're all right. I don't support Liverpool, so I'm not going there though.
Well, you know, yeah, maybe we could we could swing it eventually.
All right. Okay, maybe I might pop there for a night out or two. But I don't think I'll be moving. I'll be moving if I did move away from here, which I might do eventually. But somewhere sunnier and abroad, I think would be.
Well, it does nothing but rain in Manchester, mate. So you know, Liverpool. It's much sunnier than Liverpool, Manchester. That's the secret.
You need an umbrella at all times, that's for sure. Yeah.
Amazing.
From Romanians to umbrellas, I don't know what happened there.
That feels like the name of a track. That from Romanians to umbrellas. That sounds like an interesting track name. That. In fact,
I need to name another track. I'll call it that.
There you go.
We're on.
There you go.
If it's a banger, you know where it came from, everyone. So.
Yeah. And I actually I had first-hand experience of the Romanian scene actually back in 2018. I went there for a weekend and just completely out of the blue, completely unplanned. Like Sasha was actually playing while I was there, so I went to see him at Crystal, and it was bonkers. One of the most bonkers nights I've had in ages. Those Romanian guys, they know how to party for sure.
Oh, they do, yeah. I know quite a lot of lads from Romania in Manchester, so they love the music. And they're always really supportive as well. They always come to my gigs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, in terms of starting points then, like where was the starting point for this track? And is it the same every time? Is it drums? Is it like some more musical stuff? Tell me what the start
this was a Guy J inspired track actually. A cross between Guy J and Mia Popovici, because I sampled some of the drums. But I just love like Guy J's hypnotic kind of style. Although it's not as musical as what Guy J would probably put out, or progressive, whatever you call it. It's still got that kind of hypnotic style. I saw him, I think, when I made this track, it might have been after I saw him play all night in Manchester. He did like an all night long set, and it was incredible. And I kind of just wanted to create something proper hypnotic where a stab just literally repeats, but it kind of builds and it builds and it builds, and then something else kind of plays off it, you know, to keep it interesting. I think the starting point was this stab. So do you want me to solo it or something? And
have a listen.
Find a. There we go.
Nice.
It's just a simple kind of I've added, you know, like +7, +90, kind of get with the synth. I've obviously got an instrument rack here with quite a few parameters that I've automated, you know, to keep the sound interesting. The dry wet, which is a delay I'll come to in a minute. But where am I now? Yeah, so I've it. One thing with me is my processing is at this point was a bit wayward. Let's just say I'm a lot better now. This was about 9 months ago, I think, when I made this tune. So it's some of it, when I look back at it, it doesn't quite make sense. But I kind of got to the the sound that I wanted. But it's a bit of a mess. But you know, there's Decapitator, which is one of my favorite kind of saturation plugins, which, you know, if it needs a little bit of extra harmonics, you know, in the mid highs or whatever, I kind of punch it through that.
Nice.
Got some EQs to kind of control it. I put another saturator on. Christ. I don't know. I must have been drunk when I made this.
Go big or go home, mate.
Yeah, go BA, might as well. So then obviously Echo, I always stick it on everything, you know, just to kind of add a bit of vibe and delay to it. There's another delay as well. got some auto filters.
Nice.
Oh, I've got an LF auto as well. So I think the LFO is automating. I think it's the cutoff
Yeah.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it's this here. So
Nice.
it's afraid of bees, which is
Oh, it's a flanger,
I
isn't
think
it?
the flanger.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find a way just to keep this sound kind of subtly changing in timbre or whatever. So I just kind of was messing around with this, the dry wet, and I thought, oh, that's a bit different. So I've just kind of mapped the LFO to this dry wet, and it kind of just moves around a little bit.
Nice. Super nice.
So obviously every hit's a little bit slightly different. And then I've got Saturn on. So another saturator kind of plugin, which I use as well. So I assume at this point that it probably needed fattening up with something, so I put saturator on.
That's a really nice sound.
It's stunning, isn't it? I love it. EQ just to kind of cut out some of the higher end and the low. Kickstart, I put. I think everyone's got Kickstart, haven't they, these days?
Maybe who hasn't, or some form of it.
I tend to put sidechain on most of my sounds really towards the end, just to kind of get it pumping a little bit and grooving. This one didn't need much. I tend to, when I do it, I go extreme and then I dial it back. And then we've got a utility here which obviously controls the gain and the volume of the tune. So as you can see here, it's kind of the energy it builds, and then it builds and it builds, and then it kind of drops off a little bit.
Tremendous.
So that's the main kind of synth that was the core kind of theme of the, very simple, but then that kind of played off with this sound here. If you want me to,
what's that on the effect? Oh yeah, the lead 2. Yeah,
this is lead 2. Now I think this is
nice.
I think it's a Rodriguez Jr. sample that I might have got from Loop Cloud. Now that's part of my process as well, which I'll go into in a little bit. But yeah, I've chopped up a sample from Rodriguez Jr. And I've done some pretty crazy kind of processing to it, just to kind of the actual MIDI. It just repeats. It just only repeats one because obviously this. If I just play them both, sorry. They're just kind of talking to each other, I think. You play them both.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that's
so
that call and response we were talking about.
Call
earlier,
and response.
Right?
So obviously they're different octaves, so they obviously won't clash as much, and obviously the note, so sometimes keeping it simple, I do like just one hit stabs, it still sometimes has that kind of techiness that that I like.
Yeah, but the layered effect of having a few of them is like
of
lead parts and stuff like that. Like there's an accumulation of them that all work together, and it sort of becomes like a greater whole, doesn't it, than the sum of its parts in a way.
It does. I think one of the key things is the delays and the echoes, because that fills in the space, the gaps. If it's just one stab, it's repeating every 4 bars or every 1 bar, every 2 bars. The echo and the delay kind of get it repeating, so it actually comes across like it's rolling along, in a more kind of techno way.
Totally, yeah.
So yeah, if I have got a stab, there will be quite a lot of, as you can see here, there's quite a bit of delay and echo, which I've applied. Again, some EQ, a bit of saturation that I've used through. Distortion, what I probably should have done there is put it there, and but never mind. But so let's go with it. And then I've got an auto filter, which I assume I've give like of the sound coming in, and then it builds to the drop, and then you take it out, it builds again, it comes in later. So yeah, I've used the auto. Sometimes I use gain to bring the track in, sometimes use the auto filter, sometimes I use them in combination. I just go with it. I think the glue compressor, I'm just managing the transients a little bit. Yeah. So obviously it's quite a high sound, so I put the glue compressor in just to kind of some of the high peaky signals, I've just brought them down a little bit. Saturn's in again, and then I've added an EQ in just to kind of cut out some of the things that are, you know, like the low end maybe, and then I've put an auto pan just to give it a bit of stereo. So yeah, and then the gain again, I've just similar. So this is a combination with the auto filter. It's just coming in as the sound is coming in, really. So, and it's just and those are the two kind of sounds that are the main players. This is I think what I did here was this
it's like
lead two
a
effect.
resample, is it almost?
Correct. Yes, I resampled the lead two, you know, with all the kind of mad delays going on, and then I've pitched it up an octave, and then I've just kind of added this in on the breakdown just to add some more higher harmonics. I always find when I add more higher sounds, especially on the drops, just adds a bit more tension. You know, you can do that with risers and stuff, but I just, in this case, it just seemed to work. Adding this extra kind of lead effect in. I think what I could actually what I can show you what I have done here, which if I can find it, I did some mad stuff with the delay time. So I'll get it here. So, I'll get rid of that. Hear that kind of wobbly kind of sound.
Great,
that's really nice for kind of transitions, you know, like every 8 bars or something. It just adds something a little bit different. And I kind of, as you can see here, the milliseconds, they're kind of going more and more, so it gets even more
nice. Yeah, and it's those trippy little effects that really make a track. It's those little details, isn't it, that just kind of really take it to another level.
And I think I've achieved that through, well, sorry, probably my feedback loop now. But I've just done that through the echo. I've really smashed the feedback, as you can see here. But then it's here where I've automated. When you get the feedback really high on echo, it then allows you to mess around with the delay times, and that creates that kind of that really mad glitchy effects, which kind of work in some tracks, and it seems to work in this one because it's quite good at because this music's quite repetitive and it's quite, you know, like some people could call it quite samey. You need little bits just to kind of perk people's attention, just to kind of keep it a little bit different, and little things like that can achieve it. So
yeah, absolutely. So keeping people on their toes and adding a little bit of, you know, uncertainty into it as well, really important.
Yeah, the vocal that's just a sample I took from Loop Cloud, which I use all the time. I think there was 2. I think there's a slight variation, so that's your call, that's your response. So when it's hit on the drops, you've got your call, which is your first bit, and your response in the next, and that adds more, I feel like, more impact when you've got a resolution and stuff. So
no, 100%.
So yeah, that worked. Yeah, and initially I made this track without the vocal, and quite a high profile DJ who I sent it to gave me some feedback and said, if you put a vocal on it, it'll sound dope. And that was his words exactly. So and I did, and then I got it signed to PokerFlat.
Leave it with me.
So I thanked him for it. So that wasn't Steve Bug, by the way, either. So that was someone else who. So in terms of like the processing on this one, let's just have a look here. Probably quite a lot of stuff on here. Yeah, EQ, got Saturn to add some kind of saturation to it. Kickstart, which just gets it pumping a little bit. And then I've got some kind of delays. I've got a 4 and a 2, which help the vocal kind of bed in with the track. Got the chorus. Maybe that's adding a bit of stereo. And then I've just got a gain here, which is I've just increased it slightly just on that, just to kind of just on the drop. So that's another one of the key things. What else have I got? This is what kind of give kind of deep vibe.
Pads, nice.
So I'll do it where So that's from Silence. And then I've got an absinthe pad as well, which kind of comes in and just adds. So if you can hear it, that's without the absinthe one.
Yeah, you might have to just solo that.
The one comes in. So that, yeah, that's the second one. Can you see how it's
nice. That little bit of movement as well.
As you can see, that pad's kind of occupying a little bit more in, you know, like just beyond 1K, but then this one kind of goes a bit further.
Nice. Good layer in that, mate.
Yeah. So it's but yeah, that's what kind of really adds that kind of deep cinematic kind of vibe to it. That I was going for, and then there's a few things I've kind of added. You know, the cutoff kind of builds. I think I showed you before when the track was building, but yeah, with these kind of tunes, they build and build and build, and you know, bringing the cutoff in on pads obviously adds, you know, tension and adds intensity to the tune, and you know, kind of tells a story more and just builds. So, and then this one comes in on the break, you know, just to add a bit more higher harmonics. So so yeah, and then I've kind of got I've got a filter delay on there as well, and then got the Nicky Romero thing to try and sidechain it, and then I've got it grouped as well on this one. So I've got Saturn on there, and then a bit of EQ, and then a glue compressor for the dynamics as well, just to kind of, because you know, like with those kind of sounds, especially like strings, you know, it can get quite piercing. So I tend to always put a glue compressor on the group just to kind of, well, it's not actually doing anything on that one. I think I've got it on there, but I tend to put glue compressors on for pads and you know, and stuff, just to kind of tame those dynamics and stuff, so it's not poking out too much in the mix. The drums, do you want me to
yeah, because I was going to say, like, in terms of the drums, like, obviously you've set things up with the stab and everything, and then is it just a case of like building the drum groove around those sort of main elements and making sure the groove complements them?
Yeah, I think so. With this, because it was just one stab, it's not too difficult to kind of build a groove around it. You know, like you don't have to be so precise with where you put your notes and stuff. But so that's the kind of the basic groove of the. One biggie for me is when I put Decapitator on the drums. It's just you know, on the group drum fattener 1, and I have it on that setting. Sometimes I'll tweak it a little bit, but if you listen to that, you can't hear it now. And then
just,
you know, it's just really lifts everything, gives it that kind of pro sound.
Very nice.
You know, and punchy, and so I sometimes I've Saturn on there as well, but I've not put it on this track. So the processing, especially that, and it's so easy to do as well with Decapitator. You know, you put it on your drum bus, and then you dial it in really. So and then it's quite. I think what really gives the groove to this, you know, these drums. Oh, sorry. Is this?
Oh,
you know, kind of perk.
Definitely.
It's kind of a little bit tribally as well, and so and what I've done here is I've put an LFO to the delay, the dry wet, so it just kind of every 3/4 of a beat, is it, or a bar, you know, it's slightly just doing something a little bit different. You know, it just kind of keeps it moving. I think it's all tuned as well in key, you know, attention to detail, but they're kind of talking to each other, you know, it's quite funky. So yeah, that's what really kind of gets the groove, and then I've just got kind of hearts.
100%.
No, that's the 909, isn't it? None of it.
Just really good classic sounds that work well together.
Yeah. So this is the Mia loop, I think, that I've used. Now, usually in my other tracks, I've used this loop before, and I've had it a lot higher up in the mix.
Yeah.
But this is just adding just a little bit of vibe to it. But I've got some kind of closed hats.
Nice.
They're adding to the groove, especially the programming. So it's not just a, like everything on the 16th, like a rolling thing. It's got
thing,
more emphasis. Yeah, it's kind of locking people into it more.
Yeah, massive difference.
It's getting you in there. It's dancing. So again, that had a purpose. And then I've got obviously the ride and stuff. That's like a 909 as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so that's doing. Is that an 8-beat pattern? Yeah, just a standard one. I think I've sidechained it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I do actually that on all my sounds, I think you've taught this as well, but I think quite a few people have. So it's vocoders on hats.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
it gives a little bit more of a decay, doesn't it, and a bit more tension in a way.
Yeah, in this one I've not done it as much as the other tracks I've done, but yeah. So I apply it to so I put a vocoder on, say, an open hat, and then I will get the release, and I'll kind of find the sweet spot where it sounds quite nice, and then usually over 2 bars, 4 bars, 8 bars, I'll just bring this up slightly, just to add a little bit of variation. So that hat's always doing something a little bit. It's not staying static. It's just it's changing in a subtle way. But you can also use this vocoder to create a big white noise drop if you wanted to. But which you've seen that before. So again, it's trying to find ways just to kind of keep my sounds moving along, because there's not that many sounds on here. You've got to kind of make sure that your processing's good and you're applying lots of kind of movement and modulation or whatever to it.
Yeah.
And by doing, and the LFO tool was incredible, really. So
big time, yeah.
For achieving that. So the low end, do you want me to?
Yeah, please, yeah, because it's obviously because you'll have your kick in there, right, and then you got your bass in there too, right? Nice.
Yeah, so this is the low end. As you know, I'm a techno head, so I've got to have something that's got a bit techy. Yeah. It's a little bit proggy as well, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So the kick, main kick. So what I've done here is I've actually bounced it to audio. It's again, I think it's from a sample pack that I've been using. But what I tend to do is with a lot of elements, I put them into I don't know if I've got it here, if I can show you. No, I might have got rid of it. But actually, with the hats, I put them into like a drum rack, and then I'll show you here now. I think it's so. There we go. You might have seen this before, but I drag loads of samples into a drum rack, and then I can just quickly
select them.
Select them. I've got a link for that, which is a tutorial from a Scottish techno DJ actually, who's really good. I forgot his name now, but is it Vince Watson?
Oh, Vince Watson. Vince is ridiculous.
He's incredible, producer. There's a video that he does, and it shows you how to set that up if anyone wants to do it. But I've got the same kind of setup with my kicks where I've got them all in a drum rack, and then I can just quickly audition. Now I found this kit that I wanted, and then I bounced it to audio because I did a bit of processing for it. Yeah, the poo. I think it's based on the Pultec EQ.
It is, mate. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
It's the waves. So yeah, just kind of got the boost there and attenuation, which brings some of the frequencies down around that. So that gives it a bit more kick.
Nice. Yeah, it's good.
Utility. Yeah, and then the good old drum bus.
Can't go wrong with a bit of drum bus.
Yeah, it just adds a bit more sub as well, and punches through more. So yeah, and also for me, because I want my tracks to be quite energetic and techno-y, that I do spend quite a bit of time on the low end to get it, to sit right, and to kind of have that energy as well. I don't know. that's just a click. So
nice, and then you roll off.
Yeah, just one sec. So yeah, it's just a clicky sound that I've rolled off, and just I think one of the things actually, when I sent a lot of my tracks for feedback with you, you always said, "Oh, just try and get a bit more click."
Yeah.
So I think I followed your advice on this one. So so there's a tiny bit more click on this one. So and it helps it just to punch through a bit. And I've got like a kick syncopated now, just for a little bit of groove. You know, bump, a little bump. Yeah. Then I've got this is the bass line.
That's the kind of higher layer, right?
Yeah, there's a sub that goes underneath it. So that is that's operator. I think this is one of your make my reference things I've used on this as well. Another MYT.
Yeah,
was it the Adam Bayer put a donk on it?
I think so, mate. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I like sent you a Mia Popovici tune and said like, oh, how do I make this bass line? And then you said, right, well, use operator. It's similar to the Adam Bayer put a donk on it. So yeah, I've kind of similar thing to what you showed me, and then I've kind of put a lot of EQ. Well, I've taken a lot off there because it gets really muddy.
Yeah.
I've got the poop tech on as well, just to kind of give it, a bit of more punch. And then I've got sidechain, and then a glue compressor as well, just to take those peaks, because obviously they're quite high, aren't they? The transients.
Yeah.
If I did my sound design properly in the start, we won't have to do it. But and then we've got there's your sub bass.
Nice.
So again, I've just it's quite simple to do. You just kind of duplicate the if you've got like a sound like this, that's very kind of, it's got a nice bass line, but you're just missing something there, aren't you, that's going to kind of give it the energy. So yeah, duplicated the channel. I took it down an octave, and then you can probably hear that.
Tremendous.
So yeah, and then that's kind of punching through. Got poop tech on again. I think the kicks that I've done it a little bit more, sidechained it a bit more.
Right. Yeah.
I think also with the low end, the decay's not quite as high on the sub.
Nice.
I've kind of just toned it down a little bit just to kind of keep it to with the kicks so that they're all right. And then again, the glue compressors just taming the dynamics. And then you've got end result. Yeah, you've got it all bit away. I think. Which one's the other one? I'm missing out. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of low end.
Sweet.
This is the group. So what I always tend to do is I'll just put I think like many people do. I just put a high pass filter on the low end, and a kind of break point. So I think I'm just using a solid EQ, which is, I think it's Native Instruments one.
Yeah.
I just like the kind of sound to it, and then I sometimes
sounds quite smooth, that doesn't it? It's nice.
Yeah, it is smooth, and then I'll just kind of sometimes I'll automate it a bit just to add more tension, and then obviously boom, they're in again. So yeah, that's pretty basic anyway. So yeah, that's the low end. What else have we got? Let's go and have a look. Put that back in. So we've done the drums, haven't we? We've done the low end. Well, one thing I do also is just more housekeeping. As you can see, I'm quite neat with like my template. So I've got like 32 bar reference, 16 bars, 8 bars, and then I've got a ghost kick for side chaining, which I used to do, but I tend to use Nicky Romero for it all. I think there's still a few sounds that I just use the normal compressor. But yeah, as you can see here, I've got I have markers for everything, so I know what's kind of coming in, what sounds are coming in. It's all color coordinated, so I use the same, like yellow for drums, orange for perk, this kind of color I use black for sub, and then like that color for low end, green for vocals, blue for pads, and like it just makes it easier, you know, to know what everything is. And yeah. And then in terms of like FX and stuff, there's a few things I've used. This is just on the breakdowns, just some white noise kind of glitchy stuff. But again,
it's all stuff you're getting from Loop Cloud, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or it might have been off another Mia sample pack. But again, what have I done there? Just probably delay, you know, that usual stuff. Valhalla, reverb.
Yeah, slightly different panning as well, right? One slightly left and one slightly right.
Correct. Yeah, that's going left, that's going right. Yeah, you're right. And then I've done some kind of like modulation with the frequency here, so it just kind of when it hits, it's always that little bit different.
And you know what I like about how you work with a lot of these LFOs and stuff is that you don't put them on note sync, you've got them on the frequency, so they're kind of there's a bit more room for, you know, interest.
They're off the grid, aren't they, kind of thing.
Yeah, not quite tight all the time, you know.
You're never quite sure. With hats, I tend to keep them on the grid, you know, like open hats, the vocoder. But for sim stuff like this, yeah, I do take them off the grid and just mess around, and usually something sticks. But yeah, they're just kind of, and I've kind of added more, you know, like reverb, and I think you'll recognise that one. That's the MYT accelerator reverb, and that is amazing, I must say. So I use that all the time to create drops.
Oh, amazing.
Which was your reverb accelerator that you created for us. So yeah, I just try and I tend to apply that to most sounds. I'll just kind of automate it up towards the drop, and I do like those kind of curves, you know. So so that's only kind of basic kind of texture stuff. But to kind of really create, you know, like the drops, I've got some stuff in here.
I was going to ask you about the drops, because the drops in this are absolutely lethal. So it's like, you know, your approach towards drops would be really, really good. Because, you know, before we get into that, what I just want to say is like, it's beautiful how simple this is. It's so beautiful to see something so clean and so simple. But the level of detail that you've gone into, the attention to detail on sound design, automation, processing, all of it is deeply impressive, mate. It's deeply impressive. So, you know, no wonder it's gone to such a great label, because it's really, really impressive to see broke down.
Yeah, simplicity is key. That's the thing. But I think one thing that inspired me was over COVID was the Seb Ledger masterclass that he did. That was, you know, because I thought with him, oh Jesus, this is going to be like proper complex, but it wasn't. It was very, very basic, and he used a lot of the Ableton plugins. And I just thought, well, if he can make unbelievable music, like, you know, in the box, I know he's got all his modular stuff and that, but if he can make stuff so amazing just using a few plugins, then why can't, you know, I can do it. So, you know, with time. So it just it kind of gave me confidence to know that the kind of very simple workflow that I've got can work. I don't have to have 50 million sounds and channels, you know, all doing stuff. So, you know, that, you know, if just making sure that everything has a purpose and it's working well, you know, and it's properly kind of processed and designed, you know, it seems to all come together well. So, but yeah, in terms of the FX, I think it's the white noise that kind of gives it the blast off. But that, again, that's just a white noise kind of sample that, you know, that I've kind of just brought up into the mix. You know, you bring in more kind of frequencies. You know, I've EQ'd, I've cut out some of the lows because obviously white noise can get a bit
sidechain compression there rather than. Oh, you've done both. You've done Kickstart and
it's double. I had no idea why I did that. So that just,
it can actually be quite useful. It actually can be quite useful. I've started doing this a lot because it's like when you got a sidechain compression, it sounds great and it pumps really nicely, but it can sound a little sloppy and it doesn't quite lock to the groove.
Yeah.
So what you can do is like what you've probably done there is put a kickstart over the top of it, because you've probably sensed that there's like, I need a little bit of a cleaner
something
envelope.
Not quite right. Yeah.
So you get the best of both worlds there. So it's great.
Yeah, that's exactly the answer. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, that's what I should have said. But yeah, so I use white noise quite a bit.
Mm.
I'm not afraid to use it. I know some people get a bit like, "Ugh." But no, it works for me, and a lot of producers I respect and use it as well. So you know, I don't use it all the time, but you know, for this kind of track where you want to really kind of emphasize the drop and let it blow up, you know, it works, and also it kind of perks people's attentions and keeps the track interesting, especially when you've not got too many elements that are doing stuff. I've also got kind of like a reverse. I don't think I've got a crash for this one, or I might do. But this is just you know, just a standard kind of reverse. Well, that's bugger all that one.
That little kind of...
Yeah, so it's pretty subtle, really. In some of my other tracks, I've kind of beefed it up, and it's been a bit more prominent. Yeah, and then obviously we've got this snare roll, which I don't tend to use them that much, but for this track, I just thought, sack it, I'll do it. But I think it only comes in. I think it builds. Yeah, it's coming in. And again, it's just gain automation. Your famous accelerator reverb. I'm
gonna have to change the name of that now.
Yeah,
to
and
the famous accelerator reverb after tonight.
Yes, yeah. But it does the job. Does the job.
Yeah, like Papa John's famous pizza.
Yeah. Paul's famous reverb.
Established.
Blaster.
Exactly. Established 2017.
Taking you to another world with the old reverb blaster. But yeah, it's just got basic processing, delays, decapitator to add a bit more harmonics, kickstart, auto pan just to kind of get it a bit more stereo. So yeah, and then yeah, it just all kind of comes together. And but I've kind of there's other elements that kind of help to generate, you know, that tension. So you know, like my cutting out the lows, you know, taking out more of the low end. I think I might have even done something with it. Yeah, so this is another one I do as well. So the high end as well. Instead of taking things out completely, I just put a low pass on the drums. So you kind of just taking out the higher harmonics as the track is about to blow up. And it just adds more space. So all these things are kind
of, mate. That's so great.
Yeah, and also because a lot of DJs these days say that don't take stuff out on breakdowns because you lose the groove, and you know, like these people just want to dance these days. So and don't make too large a breakdown. So what I tend to do is I don't really take too much stuff out, but I will just subtly take harmonics out from like the high end or from the low end. So you're still kind of keeping people dancing, but they're not like sure. Oh, Jesus, you know, they're getting more tension because things are coming out subtly. Then other things are coming in, and then it just blows at the end. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so everything kind of comes together.
No, absolutely, yeah. It's great to see, like, because all these parts just work incredibly well together, which is why the end result has been so good. It's so nice to see it broken down and for it to be so, like, well layered and so well, you know, sort of put together. It's absolutely fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, cheers, bud. I think some of my productions, the last few I've made, have got a bit more complex as I've obviously grown as a producer and learned more skills. But it's still the similar principles. You know, you just less is more. Because at the end of the day, I try and make music for the dance floor, and people when they're dancing, they want quite simplistic music. Really, you know, they want a groove, they want a nice vibe, you know, and I don't tend to make things too musical. Maybe one day I might kind of make some more less club orientated music, but for the time being, you know, I'm focused. Like I say, I'm very laser focused on getting good at this kind of music. So yeah, and that's what I'll keep doing.
No, incredible stuff, mate. Incredible stuff. And again, it's great to see like you are like you're not like the tools that you're using are obviously like Decapitator and FabFilter Saturn and stuff like, and you know, obviously I can see stuff like Valhalla and stuff like that, but like what you're using, it's not like it's not like super exotic, super weird, really
No.
expensive stuff. It's like it's all really accessible, and the vast majority of
Yeah.
what you're doing is doing it in Ableton with the stock stuff within Ableton, which I think is absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant, mate. It really, really is.
I think one thing for me as well, because I try and spend less time in the studio as I can. I'm not somebody who can spend all day
Nice.
tweaking a
I
hi-hat
like
and
that.
loving it. You know, I'm first and foremost, I'm a DJ. You know, DJ's me. You know, that's my bread and butter. And you know, I don't want to be spending too long in the studio. So I work quickly. I keep it simple. You know, and I get my tracks kind of finished and move forwards with it. But and I've got like a benign tumor in my left ear. It's all right now,
Right.
but so I can't listen to music, especially in headphones or, you know, on the speakers for long periods of time. So I try and, you know, like work quickly, and, you know, I work in spells and stuff and blocks.
Do you find it's
So,
sort of like 90 minutes, couple of hours, that kind of thing, and that's it? Like,
yeah. Well, it's the law of diminished returns in it, the 80-20. You know, if after 90 minutes you don't really get much, do you?
No.
So out of it, you get, and because I put so much into it, I feel like after 90 minutes I'm fried. I need to go for a walk.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very short, sharp. But I also have a plan before I go into a studio session. So I say, right, this is what I'm going to do today, and these are the elements I'm going to work on, and I kind of stick to it. So I'm quite regimented, and I think one book I've read is called Deep Work.
Yes.
It was an absolute mind blower.
Yes.
It's
Cal
incredible
Newport,
book,
mate.
that.
Yeah, he's the one.
Good old Cal, yeah. Well, that kind of changed my kind of workflow and, you know, scheduling things and you know, making sure that I've no distractions and you know, and I just get my head done. I'm in a good place to do it. That is one of the best books I've ever read.
Definitely.
I highly recommend it if no one's
no, absolutely. And Cal's podcast is phenomenal as well, which you can also find on YouTube. It's great that you mention it because it's one of the books in that bookcase behind me, and it is honestly one of the kind of the most influential books that I'd read in the creation of the flow system, because, you know, it really did speak to what you've got to do, you know, again, and it really interfaced with the other books that I've, you know, really took a lot of influence from, like Stephen Pressfield's work, like The War of Art, and, you know, a lot of like Kotler's work, Stephen Kotler, about flow states and stuff like that as well. So all of these books, Atomic Habits, James Clear, like they've all kind of intersected in this really beautiful way, and like really do they work together as a system so well. And, you know, honestly, like what I've basically tried to do is take the best parts of all of those books and apply them specifically to music production in the context of the flow system, and that's been knockout like and really good. And the funny thing about that course is like there's almost no actual production in that course whatsoever. It's all about like eliminating distractions and scheduling and getting into a rhythm. Like everything you've talked about tonight is kind of like the key tenet of that system, really. So it's great.
But it's so important, isn't it? Like headspace and getting the right mindset, because production, it's not easy, you know, and you really do go through some demons and some challenges, and you really test yourself, and you know, there's loads of fears that you have to overcome, and you know, and these books are absolutely huge in getting you into that right headspace and mindset to, you know, like that. Is it something like Stephen King says that, you know, when he writes, you know, like his movies, you know, like the first, you know, like 1 out of 10 is actually a good, the other 9 are shit, you know. So it's, you know, you've got to like finish lots of music in order to get good at it, you know. It's just these little things, and you know, and you hear like artists say that, you know, like you've got to finish. So like when you finish a bad track, you shouldn't feel too disheartened, because it's just part of the process. You know, you finish some good stuff, and then you make a banger, you know, like a few tracks later down the line, but you just got to keep finishing music and keep having that mindset that, you know, there'll be good music that you'll make eventually, because it always comes out.
100%, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. And I think it was Giorgio Moroder who said, like, for every 10 records you make, you'll write one good one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm probably on that. Yeah, I've made 4 shit tracks actually recently, so I'm hoping that I've got a good one on the way now.
Yeah, do you know what we should do? Like, here's a masterclass of like a really shit track, and do a thing of like, oh, what could you have done better there?
Yeah. Please help me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, help me. Yeah, so
what
funny.
should I add? Yeah, it sounds crap. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Incredible. So, in terms of, I've just got some kind of final questions coming through here. Fred is asking, is it better to concentrate on one genre? Well, we kind of talked about that earlier, right? And we feel like it is. Like, you're better off just like focusing on one thing and really mastering that genre before moving on, right?
Yeah, it's good to kind of bring other elements into your music. You know, like for example, a track I've been making recently, which is a good one. I decided to use a saxophone sample and a vocal that I probably won't use, and it turned out to sound really good. You know, so I would stick to your kind of your genre or you know what you're aiming for, but then also try and experiment with some sounds that maybe you don't normally would add, because sometimes it works. But I would try and keep to like, you know, like you be, you know, roughly in the same BPM and stuff. And, you know, because if you start like doing like a 138 techno tune and then a 122 prog roller, you know, it's different skill sets. So, but it also kind of depends what you want to do.
Yeah.
In, you know, like what you want to achieve. You know, for me, I want to be the artist. You know, so for me, I've got to get good at my sound. So, or if it was just a hobby, then maybe I might be a bit more inclined to mess around a bit and explore other kind of genres. But I feel if you want to get good at something quick, I would probably be quite consistent with what you're doing.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. And you know, it comes a little bit later on down the line where, you know, say for example, for somebody like myself who can work in multiple different genres at the same time, I definitely couldn't do that at the beginning. In my first 4 or 5 years, I had to focus in on one particular genre and then kind of like elaborate out from there. So, you know, it can turn that way afterwards, but you know, in the initial period when you're trying to learn something, then I think that's really crucial to kind of like keep the keep the focus narrow, and then obviously you can, you know, open it out a little bit later on if you want, once you're in a certain place.
Because you'll have the skill set then eventually, won't you, that you can apply to other things.
And then that, believe it or not, that is a whole other set of problems, because when you can literally do anything, then that becomes a problem, because it's like, Jesus Christ, where do I even fucking start? And that's kind of my problem in a way.
You know too much, don't you?
I do, mate. Yeah, I do, mate. I almost want to like forget half of it, to be honest with you. So, you know, it is what it is. And it's scary as well, because like obviously with a lot of the people who I've worked with, like, you know, I often like to say like Junkie XL's like forgotten more than I know. And that's a scary aspect as well. So I don't even know how he writes what he writes, because it's like, you know more than me, and like that must be rattling around your head 24/7. Like, how the hell do you put that? You've got to just get out of your own way, basically, to be able to get on with it.
Yeah, that comes down to mindset as well, doesn't it? And all that kind of things that we talked about.
Or no mindset, where it's like you just get to switch your brain off entirely, you know, which is quite interesting.
I think one point I forgot to mention is when you do write your music, is try not to think extrinsically about all the labels and I need to write it for this label, because your head will definitely go. You've got to really think when you do write your music, you know, in the studio, what motivates me, what drives me, what lights me up, you know, like, and for me, you know, like hypnotic, groovy, techie music, and I just write it now. You know, I don't try and think about who I'm writing it for. Because if you do, you fall down a trap, really.
And as I like to say, you become like the oldie middle aisle version of yourself. Do you know what I mean? You almost become like you're becoming your own tribute act, really.
Yeah. I think you've got to kind of listen to music to try and understand where you fit, you know, and then you try and aim to get it in a similar ballpark. But that's not by referencing it, and you know, you can kind of do referencing and research work away from your studio time, where you learn about what components are included. But as soon as you kind of get into that studio, you just got to kind of just create sounds and see what happens. And then, you know, usually more often than not, those kind of sessions, they end up the best ones, and you feel great, and you've come up with because at the end of the day, you need a good idea. and if your idea is not good enough, then it's not really going to cut the mustard, even with a good mix down and a good arrangement. Really, you need something that's going to catch your attention and stand
You're
out.
effectively turd polishing at that point, aren't you? Really, like, let's be honest.
You are, yeah. It's obviously you've got to finish your tracks, even sometimes when you first learning, because you've got to learn the process of start to finish and mixing a track and that. But later down the line, you come to realize that there's some tracks that you just don't want to go forward with, because that it's not really got a leg to stand on. So you kind of part that one and then start afresh and stuff.
Absolutely. So one quick one, we've got a couple of final ones. Danny Tab's asking, with everything in groups, with lots of group processing, is there any sort of separate bounce to audio and mix down, or is this just finished off and mastering as it is?
Yeah, I don't bounce anything to audio to do a separate mix down session. I do. It kind of followed really like the Seb Ledger one. I just make sure that I mix down the tracks. It's a combination. I mix as I go, and I will do a kind of session once I've finished it. But I usually have about a week or so away from this track or a track before I mix it down properly. But to be honest, like, when I've kind of done most of it, I've done a high percentage of it anyway. So I'm one of those where because I'm a bit of it's something I do still struggle with, is attention to detail and perfectionism. I do like to get things right. So when I am creating sound, sometimes I can spend a bit too long on it instead of just moving forwards. But I will kind of, I don't like to go further on until a track or a sound does sound all right. It has to sound decent, in the right ballpark. You don't have to sound perfect, but it's got to sound decent where I'll move forward with it.
No, 100%, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'll just kind of tighten it up when I do the mix down properly in a week's time or something.
Yeah. I mean, again, it comes into different schools of thought, doesn't it? As you probably know, like, and you've probably seen from the mix down mastery course, like, I'm very much in the camp of like bounce stems, put it in a different DAW, do it that way. But again, like, there's no right or wrong way. It's just down to what you prefer it within your own workflow, so to speak. And I've got that habit because basically, like, I've done a lot of mixing for other people, so I kind of like, I am my own mix down engineer in a way, if you know what I mean.
I think one thing I forgot to mention with mix downs, I think a lot of people have got it these days, but Metric AB is the best plugin I've ever bought. It's unreal. I know you use it for feedback sessions and stuff as well, but that really, it just gives you that kind of, can put your reference tracks into Metric AB, and like, you can get a rough idea of how far you're off it, and my tracks have come on so much from having that reassurance that your music is in the same ballpark as them.
Dude, it's invaluable. Like, that tool is just absolutely ridiculous. It really, really is. And as I say, it's the backbone of all of our feedback sessions. We've used them on public feedback sessions on the YouTube channel, and even like this morning in track feedback session, I think I ran this morning. It was amazing because, like, we had one of our members, Ben, who is like, he's learning how to master his own stuff right now. So we said, like, okay, we'll send over the unmastered version, and we basically A/B'd and level matched, like, his finished mix down with his mastered version, and we could, like, figure out where we went wrong. And it was just like, it was so useful. Like, it's
so quick, in it.
Oh,
you can
my
just
God. Like, I can't mix or master a track without it now. It's absolutely insane how good it is.
Yeah, because my room, this is my old bedroom that I'm in at the moment. There's no acoustic treatment. There's nothing like that. Eventually, there will be, whether I move to another room and I get some treatment. But I think Metric AB has allowed me to kind of be able to do pretty good mixes in a room that's not treated at all. So all I've got the ISO acoustic stands, for my speakers, which help with vibration and stuff. And I use SonarWorks on my HD 650s, which obviously helps. So that, in combination with obviously Metric AB, I can get my tracks in the right ballpark. What I also do is I do a basic master So I usually put Oxford Inflator on,
Brilliant.
which adds a bit of saturation. It's only subtle. I think I've only put it to like 12%.
Yeah, I really love that thing. It's great.
It just adds a little bit. Then obviously that's the most amazing limiter, FAV filter. And then metric AB is always on. But then pretty much that's it. But what I'll do is what I tend to do is I'll make a track if I'm happy with it. I'll then do a basic master, which I've done there. Bounce it to audio. I mean, I've got another room where I DJ in. So, and then maybe a day or so later, I'll reference it in there with tracks that I usually play as a DJ when I'm DJing. And then what I do is, because it's been a couple of days, I'm not as kind of involved and attached to the track then. And then what I do is I just note down everything that just doesn't quite sound right. And then sometimes they all sound pretty decent. Other times, maybe high end's a bit too sharp, or low end needs a bit. So I do that, and then I go back and I make the changes. So it's important to kind of reference in different environments where you're away from your studio, because you can get a bit kind of No, 100%, mate. 100%. We've got one final question here. It's a bit of a cheeky request, which is from Stephen Miller. He says, "Hey, Gareth, can you show us the bass from your track Echo?" It's like, what more do you want? You're seeing the one from from PokerFlat tonight. So what more do you want? Asking for other tracks. I don't know. Oh man, mate, I'll send it. I'll send.
There you go.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can get it on here now, but I can't. To be honest, I can't find it. It's probably somewhere. That's one thing I'm not very good at. I'm not very organised. So there's quite a meaty bass line, the Echo one. That did really well in the when it got to obviously the Beatport #1 and stuff. So it got charted by quite a few DJs that I was into. So I was happy with that.
Good stuff.
But it is quite beastly, that bass line.
Amazing.
Well, I feel like I'm better now with bass lines. So the ones I'm making now are a bit more, got more of a sub to it. I think a bit more energy. So but thank you. Thanks for the
no problem at all. All right, well, I'm just gonna take the screen share off, and we are back into place here. But amazing stuff, mate. Amazing. And just as a final question, mate, what's on the horizon for you now, mate? What's
horizon? Coming up? Yeah, well, I've got a release coming out on OC and Verdi's label, Ampersand.
Incredible.
I think it's either next month or the month after. That's a collab with Sean Crofer, who used to be at MYT. Good lad, Sean.
Good lad, Sean. Hello, Sean, if you watch him.
He probably is. Actually, he's part of like a duo. So is it Kakura? I can't say it. Kakura or something like that. He'll probably kill me for this now. But so we've got that coming on OC and Verdi's, which is more techno, melodic techno kind of stuff. Because I do obviously, I've got this deep techie sound, but I also dabble into techno as well. I've got my residencies at the Ivy and Tattoo this summer, so quite a lot of DJing and stuff. There is another one, but I can't say anything yet.
We love all that.
In terms of a release, it's pretty cool as well. So it's a biggie for me. So, but in due course, all in the good time, I'll be able to announce that one. But there's another, hopefully a release coming out that's pretty big. I'm very excited for that.
Amazing stuff, mate. Amazing stuff. Sounds like there's stuff on the horizon, mate.
True. And then lots of sports, lots of tennis, and getting outdoors, and hope, and maybe an odd trip to Ibiza again. But after the last one, I don't know if my body
kill a few more brain cells. Why don't you?
Well, I've just seen the Cal Cox listings for DC10. They look amazing. So proper DJ, like real emphasis on proper DJs, not these Instagram stars. It's proper music, proper music. So I'm tempted to go, and Steve Bugg's playing as well. So I might and John Digweed's on, and the real kind of what I call proper DJ.
Yeah,
So,
tempter that,
yeah.
mate. Absolute tempter. Loving it. Loving it. Gareth, it's been amazing,
Yeah,
this, mate. It's
so
been fantastic, mate. I really, really appreciate you taking the time and, amazing tips, like really, really good stuff. Like Dan Shaw's just said in the comments here, it's like there's loads of stuff that it's like, oh my God, I can't wait to go and like actually have a go at that and stuff where you go, oh my God, I've forgotten you could even do that. Do you know what I mean? So it's been brilliant, mate. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Nah, mate, you're really, really welcome. You're really welcome. And again, another great example of like MYT's, community success and stuff. So, if you do want to join us, then feel free to. You can head over to www.transition.studio. We'll put the link to the website in the description as well. Come and join our merry religious cult where we kind of get together and make incredible music and then hopefully get signed to incredible record labels and give your career a bit of a lift like Gareth's just had here, and Chris, Four Candles, and everybody else who we've mentioned all the way through this. So yeah, fantastic stuff, mate. Really appreciate your time, Gareth, and looking forward to seeing everybody else very, very soon. Nice one.
Cheers, guys.
Take it easy. See you later.
See ya.